should know that stylists in Hollywood, like in life, didn't exist 20 years ago. That's like a new
Is it a new thing?
employment category.
Well, you got offended when Troy suggested getting you a stylist to jumpstart Ana, the brand.
Hey, bring it on. Like, I'll take anything. Like,
I mean, I was saying that if we could add...
Where does the budget start? 100,000? 500? Like, let's go. Troy, come on. I'll open the account.
You naturally have taste. I think you have taste. I'm biased in this, but I think you have good taste.
I mean, I wish people watch this on video because you can really see the taste distribution from screen to screen. Brian's background looks like...
Thank you, Alex,
I'm
because I don't even
utilitarian.
need to respond. Some things you just don't need to respond to.
That's right.
What does it mean to you, Ana? You're smart about this stuff. What is taste?
So sociologically, there have been a ton of studies because obviously it's one of the ways that people organize themselves and judge themselves and rank themselves and signal their status. So Veblen used it to kind of say, hey, upper classes have specific tastes, but when lower classes adopt those tastes, upper classes move on and start doing something else. So that's like Soho House, that's like maybe even Casa Cipriani now, that's, like when you start doing certain things, when like Soul Cycle used to be cool. Like, I know it sounds improbable, but so that's kind of those behaviors that you always need to kind of keep going, and that's that class distinction.
Now
And
I see
then
why
they-
you got pissed off last night when I asked you if you knew what a Veblen good was. Because this is
think it's-
foundational. Well, not pissed off, but you were like, of course, right? Because I wanted you to be a Veblen good, right? So that you would increase your subscription prices.
yeah, it's about monetization. Troy's coming.
But
at
then
this
you
from a
become a
monetization.
Geffen good, when your price is just, people are buying you just because you have a really high price, which is like basically Jay-Z's champagne and like the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, without going, so that's like, let's talk about that because that's important for what Brian and what you guys talked about before. And then for Bourdieu, he was also talking about how taste is actually, you're born into that. It's something that's given. And that is actually the opposite of what I believe in and what other schools of sociology believe in, because if tomorrow I decide to become a coffee connoisseur and develop that taste, there's so many places to go. There are magazines, there are like blogs, there are like newsletters, there are videos. If I want to become a bourbon connoisseur, if I want to develop like Japanese anima style, I can. So that is the whole point, that with the internet, with these taste communities, anyone can develop taste. It's not something that's fixed and given, that's why I brought up those two sociologists, that in the 20th century, it was something like you're just born into that and you're stuck with it. And that's how you're like, oh, that's not quite our class based on how, in Europe is still very much the case. If you go to London and hang out there, when you go to St. Moritz or so on, you know exactly how the knives are, arranged, you don't know how the forks are arranged, and you know how people behave. And based on those behaviors, they know what class you're in. But like in general, all of that can be learned.
Yeah, but that's the democratization part that I think is like interesting because, democratizing taste to me is, isn't that like sort of against the point of it? Like,
Well, isn't that what you were kind of mentioning, Ana, that as soon as like a taste starts scaling, the class of like that defines themselves as tastemaker tries to move to something else, which is like taste rarely survives scale. Like once you start doing something mass market, it's really difficult to keep
But
yourself.
you have
in that,
mass taste, like Zara is a mass taste, fashion is a mass taste.
iPhones.
And that is, but the thing is, which I think is very interesting, that's what your examples of like Elon Musk having hair now, like that's kind of everyone can pay for taste, basically. But like when you say, hey, but
I sort of think that bald is kind of beautiful.
definitely, Troy, definitely niche taste.
For the audio listener, Troy just lifted his hat.
So I do think that when you have like Fashion Substack now, you have all those different new gatekeepers, and they have their own niche audiences. They're like maybe 100,000 or so on. And then you still have Vogue. Vogue is mass taste for someone. Like Zach Posen is fashion for someone
Right.
because he was a project runaway and so on. But actually, how do you want to define what are those tastemakers and groups are doing? Are they advancing a discipline? Are they advancing a market? What is the purpose? Spotify is taste for someone, but not for Bram Breaker.
All of this taste though comes, I mean, even Zara, right? There's a pipeline that comes in from smaller groups, which are often kind of defining tastes. You know, they can be artists, musicians, or some subculture. And then that taste makes it into the mass culture, right? And at some point, it feels that gets tapped out and new sources get picked out. I mean, Spotify is the same thing, right? A lot of the Spotify Spotlight playlist is about like discovering cool new artists that were, you know, Doechii was like, you know, looking for work a year ago, and now she's a massive star. Isn't Zara also kind of like mining the taste of these subcultures popping up? Isn't it looking at like the wider society and saying, okay, this is cool now, we'll just mass produce it?
Correct, but that's distribution.
Right. So are they making taste, or are they just scaling taste?
Scaling taste.
Right.
I'm interested in your point of view on the sort of European conception of taste versus the American. Because I think of America, let's posit it. I think we're a crass, vulgar people. You know, we're commercializers. We're scalers. We like ad networks on the ocean. Like, you know, this is just who we are, right? I don't think this is not happening in Italy.
Well, you can also look at the positive side. You're pioneers, explorers, innovators.
Yeah, no, that's a positive.
Inventors.
Everything is trade-offs. You know, like I'm not looking to Italy to create like, you know, the next frontier models in AI, but I think I trust them more on having like great taste generally.
Yeah, but that taste is also really set in legacy, right? Like, I don't think Italy, and a lot of it is kind of based on legacy. A lot of it is based on old-fashioned ways and very rigid ways of doing things, which is great, which remains tasteful. And there's some maintaining that is important. But like, you know, rock and roll and Bob Dylan and stuff like that, those influences often came from the US, where people just tried new stuff.
Again, it's trade-offs. I'm just saying, when you're looking for like, you know, Troy, if you're going to have like go to a hotel with great taste, okay, are you more likely to have that in Miami, or are you more likely to have that in Milan? Like, it's not close.
Oh, it actually definitely Miami. I think that
you deserve that, Brian. You deserve that.
No, I mean, I've been to really terrible hotels in Milan, and I think that actually there's a real kind of taste perversion in Italy, where it's like either it actually, maybe we shouldn't draw. I mean, because there's some things that Miami and Milan share, right? Like there's there's a tackiness to both of it on the kind of bad side, right? Like the
peacocking.
I mean, there's wonderful hotels in Miami. We were at one last night. That hotel we were at last night is better than any single hotel in Milan for sure.
Well, you said you want to die there, right?
I would like to die there. Yes, I wouldn't mind. I mean, I'm not saying a violent death, but like if you were going to overdose anywhere, that would be not.
Are we
a bad
doing
place.
like this is Troy's White Lotus exit is kind of the arc here.
But like, so because there's so many more dimensions to taste that I think that Americans are good at. There's just the sort of fundamental layer of taste, but there's also, you know, the kind of American obsession with like sophisticated execution, right, and service that make the kind of American tasteful experience so wonderful. I don't know. I think that every society, I mean, even Canadians have taste, right? It's just different.
Ana, what is you're a cultural critic.
I do think there was a so-called Battle of Versailles in the 70s when American designers went to Paris, and that was Bill Blass. Back then, you won't like know them. They were like before Calvin Klein, Donna Karan even. So you would have those that sort of define the 70s. Jeffrey Bean, I think, was there. And basically they staged that in Versailles, and it was to raise money. And basically they came in, and it was unbelievably stodgy affair, fashion shows back there was like classical music and so on. And Americans came and they were like, it was Pat Cleveland, there were African Americans models, they were dancing, there was jazz, and they just killed it. And not just with the looks, but the entire format. And they really upset that luxury fashion setting. But then he also, like, when you look at Apple and design of computers, that is another thing. And so kind of like, I do believe in that innovation in taste that comes from here. I don't agree with Troy in terms of service, because when you go to a lot of American luxury hotels, it's so overwrought. It's not natural. When you go to Japan, for example, it's omotenashi, one step ahead. It feels very flowing and natural. And here someone tells you 55 times good morning and knocks on your door and enters.
Would you like some water?
Like breaking and entering. And do you need chocolate? And like it's kind of all over you, like.
I agree.
And it's like, I'm naked, go away,
There's no
right,
subtlety.
right.
There's no subtlety. We used to do this event at my last job at a resort. We went to a lot of resorts. I spent a lot of time at resorts just for a professional reason. And it was in Deer Valley, and the staff, when you would walk by them in the hallway, they would like pin themselves to the wall. Like it was like a wide corridor. And I was just like, this is a little bit much. I don't need that.
But I also think that in Milan, you have, like, when you go to Como, those hotels are amazing. Like now Mandarin Oriental, and then even like the attention to detail is much higher. Armani Hotel, like Principe di Savo, you mentioned last night that you're very interested in the escort scene at Casa Cipriani on Friday nights. So when that's the case,
Who mentioned that? Was that me or Troy? Or is that Alex?
Oh, Troy.
I was not involved in this. I would like, for the record, that was not involved.
I might have
in this
mentioned that as an observer, I noticed at the Four Seasons Uptown, the new Four Seasons bar in Manhattan.
It was not as a consumer. I don't remember it mentioned.
And also, the fashion examples maybe, different countries have primacy in different industries. And, American fashion isn't really, obviously nearly as well developed. If that's the lens you're using,
Don't forget Ralph. Respect to Ralph.
Well, hold on.
But at the same time, Troy, like European tourists are some of the worst dressed people in the world. I can say that as a European. I mean, see tourists abroad.
Trash. No, you haven't been in Milan or Paris. Why do you have Parisian style, Parisian chic? It's the entire genre.
No, I know, but those are like, if you go to Milan.
You're speaking with your people. I don't know who your people are.
No, look, there's a lot of Europeans who wear those.
I'm French, so I'm
polo shirts with the giant numbers on them and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This Euro trash. You have that everywhere. Don't.
But no, I am judging, because I think if you look at, there's definitely the population of, you walk into any city. You'd walk into New York and you think, America is full of great taste. I think every country has something that another country will find offensive, including kind of like the broad European fashion when they travel. Like, I think,
Yeah, but what's the point? What's your point?
Well, my point is that, like, I don't think we can casually, like, talk about one country having more taste than another. I think there are exports of taste that each of these countries can do really well. France, Italy, even America. But I think, like, culture itself, like, taste is kind of a mishmash.
Right, but I think that certain countries made a brand out of themselves thanks to it.
Sure.
Like, France makes money out of it. Of their luxury industry, of their Provence, of their wines, of their perfumes, of their luxury brands, of their museums. Like, that's their brands based on their taste. Italy, the same. They haven't created anything new in, like, 100 years. Mussolini.
But it's an industry rather than like a broad cultural behavior.
This was
oh my God.
The global export.
I want you on every week, Ana. We're going to build that brand. I'll get you a stylist. Well, listen, but I'm wondering, Ana, because this podcast occasionally likes to veer into service territory. What helpful tips would we offer the audience around how to be more tasteful, how to think about taste with more, I don't know, sophistication maybe, or like, what advice would you give me about taste? I'm looking for it.
In terms of service?
Well, no, I meant, when I said service, I mean service in the context of service journalism. Like, we want to help people live a more tasteful life.
Is this something you can do intentionally? Like, can you learn to have taste?
That's what I wanted to say. But like, I'm really, like, I want to really pay respect to American designers who are at Battle of Versailles. And I know that your audience doesn't care. But if that goes, I'm segueing into the next answer is like, what are you really interested in and passionate about, Troy? What would you like to learn more of? Because everything you want to develop a taste in, I have a taste for, is an expression. It's basically, think of taste as an active thing, something that can be learned, not something that's given and you have it or you don't have it.
So do you think I could be more stylish if I put my mind to it?
1,000%. You can hire a stylist.
I don't
Look
want to
at
hire
Jeff
anybody.
Bezos. I mean, look at that. He's like cover of Vanity Fair, shot by Anne Leibovitz. Have you seen him?
Does he have taste?
No, I don't. Are we saying that's
No, but
tasteful?
like that's what I'm saying. You can hire a stylist, but you can also learn about style. Read Fashion Substack.
Lauren Sanchez, she tasteful.
Everybody in Silicon Valley right now is a stylist, I can tell you. Everyone.
Absolutely. They all go to Brunello Cucinelli's, like Nonna is making them like meatballs, there's Solomeo, you know, like they're all into like that. So that's kind of, it's not that that's a shortcut to taste, but if you're really interested in that, Troy, you go Fashion Substack, you click on affiliate links, and then you slowly go, whatever your recommendations
Yeah, I'm kind
are.
of more interested in, I'm waking up to this morning, right? And I'm a little low on clothing because it's the end of a trip. But, you know, I make decisions in my closet or to add things to my closet. And I'm just wondering if you would maybe have anything for me to think about when I'm making those decisions.
If you have nothing to wear in your hotel room,
Yeah.
that's pretty much the end.
No.
The end of your. I can't like deliver anything.
Yeah,
for
but he's not
like,
going to be
I
there
don't know
forever.
You see, because
right.
men of my, I mean, I'll just finish this up. Men of my vintage typically just kind of veer towards uniform dressing
Correct.
and try to just stick to the same stable of brands and looks and then vary them slightly. Like, you know, I have, you know, classic Lacoste, you know, polo tops in 37 colors just because it's comforting to me and I don't have to make a lot of decisions.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I'm not sure that I understand your question. We went from you having a lot of dirty laundry to having, you know, like, so at the end of your trip. So
Have
like
you listened?
A
Have you
lot
listened
of
to this
men, like
podcast?
honestly, I'll just go back. A lot of men behave like you. Banana Republic built their entire, like American companies build their entire business on the fact that men don't want to make decisions. They buy one pair of chinos when they're 22 and they buy like the next time they buy it, like they're buried at 92. You know what I mean? They buy the same
chinos.
over and over and over again. And American retail business is created like that. So you know what I mean? That's kind of you're an archetype of that sort of behavior. So if you want to sort of evolve your taste, then I have the same recommendation as before. Having 37 Lacoste is amazing. That really takes decision making out of your day. And which is more important, it creates a brand for you. Repeatability and uniform is like, oh, I know how Troy is going to look like. It's Steve Jobs' black turtleneck and so on. So you project a specific image. So what do you want? You want to have a different image?
I think I'll stick to this one for now, just because it's
Cool. So what's your question then?
Well, I was being. It was a hypothetical.
It's
question.
hypothetical. So let's do what
You're
you
getting
want.
a what's your question treatment, Troy. I love this.
So I have a hard stop.
No, but I want to be helpful here. I want to be useful to your audience. So kind of my
There we
thing
go.
is, oh, there is
Wait,
an
anonymous banker
It's
is
time
here,
for me
Ana.
to
Anonymous
go.
Bagger, that's what I was. That's what I was. Okay.
Ana, thank you for taking the time.
Maybe I can give. Hey, Troy, can I give a tip to anonymous banker? He
100%.
definitely
You know what
is.
What do you think
dresses
about
like,
banker fashion?
Well,
He has 30 of those blue Oxford button downs.
that's not a brand, Troy. That's something different. No, but I do want to like just wrap up and leave you on a like. If you really wanted to explore, like you can say, hey, Ana, tell me which podcast to listen to. Tell me which like newsletters to read. Tell me which stores to go to. And you start from there because like I can tell, read a continuous lean, for example, like read Sprezza, go to those Instagram accounts, see what you like. You like more of that? Algorithm is going to take care of the rest.
Right.
You're going to look like him in no time. Bye.
Give us 5 tips for the PVA weekend. Thank you, Ana.
Bye, Anna.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye, Anna. Thank you.
Bye.
Please come back.
All right.
All right, AB, you're
That's
here.
a lot. That's a lot. That's your daily, day in, day out?
That's a Tuesday.
She's fabulous.
Anna's very accomplished and she's very high energy and she's a lot of opinions and she takes this shit. So
So I've got a hard stop in 6 minutes.